Speaking of energy, as we were just told, first it was Alaska, now it is the Gulf of Mexico as Biden shuts down new oil leases despite surging energy costs and needs. And today, the Biden administration's 5-year plan for offshore oil and gas leasing will reportedly not include any sales, that's zero, in 2024, and will feature only 3 in the final 4 years, the lowest number of auctions in the history of the program. Joining us now is Pendley, former director of the Bureau of Land Management. Perry, great to see you. Thank you for being here. What do you make, first of all, a 5-year? When I hear 5-year plan, I think of the old Soviet Union. It bothers me that they use these 5-year plans, but 0 new leases in the first year. What do you make of that?
Well, it's absolutely insane, but it's exactly what Joe Biden told the Weather Channel a month ago. He said, I'm going to shut it all down. There's not going to be any oil and gas, not in the Gulf. And he was dragged kicking and screaming by the Senate Democrats, I think, to come up with a plan. This is mandated by federal law. He's got to have a 5-year plan. President Trump, we had a 5-year plan, 17 to 22. We had 11 sales in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah. Biden's got 3. In 25, 27, 29. You know, we get 18% of our oil and 4% of our natural gas from the Outer Continental Shelf. It employs 300,000 Americans, and every state in the union benefits from it, not to mention driving the price of energy down further. We mentioned at the top here, the inflation rate is the highest in 7 months, and the driver of that is energy prices.
Sure.
Driving up the energy prices. We're approaching $100 a barrel for energy, and the Gulf of Mexico has huge potential.
Oh, it's amazing.
36 billion barrels of oil potential, 62 trillion cubic feet of natural gas potential, and that's just the low-end estimates.
Yeah.
Who knows what's out there when we start drilling?
You know, the McKinsey and Company, which is not a conservative organization at all, they came out, actually a lot of their greenies came out with a plan to increase drilling in the Gulf of Mexico by 2 million barrels a day. They say it's possible. They say in a way of transitioning to green energy that we should do this. Obviously, they're not listening to this. But is that, I mean, with 2 million extra barrels a day, just from the Gulf alone, we could become energy independent again, right?
Well, we absolutely could, and we achieved that under President Trump in 2019. We hit energy independence for the first time in 62 years because of Trump's aggressive offshore leasing program. In the last year, near the end of 22, in Biden's first 19 months in office, he had only leased 162,000 acres. You have to go back to Harry Truman, who did not have an OCS program, to get that low. Reagan, we leased, when I was with the Reagan administration, 80 million acres. So Biden's way behind. He talks about electric vehicles, but he shut down a huge world-class mine up in Minnesota. He talks about nuclear power, but he shut down America's best uranium deposit in Arizona. He talks about oil and gas for American Indians, but he shut down hundreds of thousands of acres in the San Juan Basin in New Mexico over the objections of the Navajo Nation.
They're completely contradicting each other all the time. They're contradicting themselves and their own things. By the way, the media, the way they're reporting this about the almost shutdown of oil leases, basically they're saying it's not enough. That when he was campaigning for president, he said he completely stopped them entirely. I just was wondering if you had any thoughts on this, because, you know, they are sensitive, the White House, to pressure from the left.
Well, they certainly are. I mean, they're driven by the left. Whether it's Obama running the place or somebody else, Joe Biden is reflexively doing whatever the worst progressives want him to do. All of the Democratic candidates for president in 2020 said they wanted to leave it in the ground, and that's exactly what he's doing. This is a terrible thing to do. We have perhaps a terrible winter coming. The weather forecast here in Wyoming, my home state, is that it's going to be a brutal winter again, low temperatures, and the American people, especially American Indians out here in the West, are going to have to choose between fuel and food or gas and groceries because of Biden. Because of Biden. He says he's in favor of American Indians. he must hate American Indians because of what he's doing to them at the gas pump.
Well, it certainly doesn't make any sense. Perry, I just want to talk about your old the organization you used to be head of, the BLM.
Right.
The misnamed Inflation Reduction Act, because it's basically a green energy spending program. They have all these new rules for the BLM, which dramatically changes how and where federal land becomes available for leasing. And just picking one example, in New Mexico, they have the San Juan Basin, New Mexico. They have the potential of 100 trillion cubic feet of natural gas there.
Yes.
They are worried that these new rules in the Inflation Reduction Act could actually limit, if not exclude, some of that natural gas from getting exploited. What do you know about that?
Well, it's not just the Inflation Reduction Act, it's the BLM's own rules where they have, where Secretary Haaland, for example, put off limits hundreds of thousands of acres, including land owned by American Indians. Property rights they have. It's going to cost them $20 million over a 20-year period. It's going to cost the Treasury $1 billion. And they're going the wrong direction. In my home state of Wyoming, we have an area near Rock Springs, 36 million acres that are run by the Bureau of Land Management. I mean, 3.6 million acres run by the BLM. And half of that is going to be off limits to what we call in the West multiple use, which means oil and gas or mining or logging or ranching or even recreation. So they're closing down our property. At the same time, they're settling these crazy lawsuits with Greens. Just a week ago, a federal judge said no to the attempt by the Biden administration to reduce an OCS sale in the Gulf of Mexico that they did because they settled a lawsuit with the Greens. You know, Secretary Bernhardt issued an order, hey, when we settle these lawsuits, we're going to tell the public how much we paid these green groups to settle the lawsuit and why we did it. Secretary Haaland's first act when she came in was to get rid of that so she doesn't have to disclose the hundreds of thousands of dollars she's paying off the green groups.
And there's another person, by the way, in the administration is always talking. I mean, I think she's an American Indian herself. She's talking about the American Indians and how much they care about them, when in fact the American Indians, a lot of these tribes are dead set against these policies. I'm so glad you brought that up. Wait, Perry, I wish, quick last point. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, absolutely. You have the 3 affiliated tribes up in North Dakota in the Bakken. You have the Utes in Utah and Colorado. You have, in my home state, the Arapaho and Shoshone are developing oil and gas. And then the Navajo down in the San Juan Basin. And they're getting hurt dramatically. At the same time, the Biden administration is spending billions and billions of dollars on green energy that will never benefit American Indians.
Perry Pendley, great to see you and hear from you. We appreciate you being here. Have a good week.